let's get into the first main topic. So the first main topic is going to be my thoughts and observations and reactions from the United States Women's National Team's second friendly against Colombia. So, like I mentioned earlier, the United States Women's National Team won this game by a scoreline of 6-0. Some important notes: Catarina Macario opened the scoring and made her first start for the U.S. Women's National Team at the striking position. She opened the scoring really early on in the game on a cross from Ali Krieger. Ali Krieger was flying up the wing, got a cross into Catarina Macario, who finished it into the top corner. It was a very good finish for such a young player, so it was excellent. My favorite part about that goal was the sheer joy that I could see on Catarina Macario's face. She did this glorious fist pump into the air. For those of you who are listening on audio, I'm trying to imitate it as much as I can, but out of fear of punching my own microphone, I'm going to kind of limit it a little bit. But she kind of gave this like little hop. It was just really cool to see a player who has come so far in her life and her career. I follow her story a little bit about how she came to the United States and how she started playing for the U.S. Women's National Team, the adversity she faced. It's really cool to see players like that overcome obstacles and succeed in life, and that was just a really cool moment from that particular match that I wanted to share with y'all. Moving on to the second goal of the day. So Megan Rapinoe ended up scoring the second one, and in the 35th minute, she shot the ball toward goal on the left wing. It deflected off a Colombian player and went into the back of the net, and she gave a really subtle what do you call it, celebration, just kind of a little bit of a shimmy, but it was really cool seeing her score again. She hasn't played in a really long time, and seeing her get back into the swing of things and be successful, who doesn't love that, right? Moving on a little bit later, fast forward about 10 minutes, on a corner, Sam Mewis was going to head the ball into goal, but she was dragged down by a Colombian defender, at which the referee awarded a penalty, and who, none other than Megan Rapinoe, went ahead and took it. She took it with grace, beauty, and she hit the lower right-hand corner of the net and scored. So that made it 3-0 right before the break. I have to digress a little bit here and say, wow, Megan Rapinoe is probably one of the best penalty takers I've ever seen. Even if the keeper guesses right, which in this case the Colombian goalkeeper did, shout out to her because she had a phenomenal game. But even if the keeper guesses right, it more often than not, Megan Rapinoe's shot is so precise that it beats the keeper anyway. So I can see why Megan takes a lot of their set pieces and penalties. She's so accurate. Let's jump into the second half. So fast forward to the 60th minute. Lynn Williams has a delicious ball from Sam Mewis and scores it with a header. It was really cool to see Lynn Williams rise to the occasion and finish that particular chance. Just a few minutes before, the inverse happened where Lynn Williams had this gorgeous ball to Sam Mewis from the right wing. No goalkeeper was in front of Sam. Nobody was in front of Sam. But Sam ricocheted it directly off of the post and it went out. That's just really, really bad luck. Sam's world class. She knows that she's got to put away those chances. I just thought that was a little bit of bad luck. But all in all, it was a phenomenal play, and I'm really glad that Lynn Williams was able to put that goal away, making it 4-0 for the U.S. Just after that, in the 62nd minute, Vlatko Andonovski put on 3 subs. He subbed in Crystal Dunn, Carly Lloyd, Lindsay Horan, all in for Catarina Macario, Rose Lavelle, and Megan Rapinoe. It was really cool because Crystal Dunn, we got to see play in the front line in this game, which myself as a U.S. Women's National Team fan, I've never seen Crystal Dunn play on the front line in an international game. Of course, she's done so with the North Carolina Courage and has excelled there, but we'll talk about that later. A few minutes later, Vlatko brings in 2 more subs. He subs on Christy Mewis and Midge Purse for Sam Mewis and also Lynn Williams. Purse also got to play up top this game too and shine there. I'll talk about that later. Moving on, 6 minutes later, a lot of stuff happened in between the 60th minute mark and the 75th minute mark. But Lindsay Horan put away a volley from none other than Crystal Dunn off of a corner. She finished a sweet volley off of her right foot into the upper right corner of the net, and it was fantastic to see Lindsay score. If you want my opinion, I think Lindsay Horan was probably the second best player from these 2 friendlies, but she just played great up and down the pitch. It was phenomenal to see. 5 minutes later, Emily Fox is subbed on for Ali Krieger. Emily Fox, the number 1 draft pick in the NWSL draft. That's right, she was picked by Racing Louisville just a couple weeks ago. She made her 3rd appearance for the club, and she played in the left back position, I believe. And she also played pretty well, too, for the minutes that she was in. And then last but not least, in the 86th minute, Midge Purce scored a wonderful header off of the foot of Carly Lloyd. Carly Lloyd drifted onto the left wing on a pass from, I can't remember who, but anyways, she used her left foot, got the pass to Midge Purce, and Midge Purce finished it excellently to score her first international goal. Super cool to see, and super happy for her as well. So, with that match recap, guys, there's a lot to unpack here, but let's first start out with the lineup. So starting in goal, we had Jane Campbell. I almost said a listener there. Whew. So we had Jane Campbell, and then starting at the right back position, we had Allison Krieger. In the center back position alongside Allie Krieger, we had Alana Cook. And then next to Alana Cook, we had Tierna Davidson of the Chicago Red Stars. On the left back position, we had Emily Saucy Sonnet. Who doesn't love Emily Sonnet? In the holding midfield position, we had Julie Ertz. And then playing just up a little bit higher in the central midfield position was Rose Lavelle and Sam Mewis. And then pushing up to the forward line, we had Lynn Williams on the right wing, Megan Rapinoe on the left wing, and Katerina Macario up top in the striking position. Some might say that Vlatko used Katerina Macario more of in a false nine position, almost like a center forward or center attacking mid, which makes a ton of sense because that's where Macario excels. And what's really interesting is that in previous matches, from what I've been seeing, I'm trying to remember correctly, but I believe Vlatko's even used Alex Morgan in that respect too. But that's another topic for another time. But looking at the subs then, we had Ashlyn Harris, Lindsay Horan, Emily Fox, Crystal Dunn, Carly Lloyd, Christy Mewis, and Midge Purce. So overall thoughts on that particular lineup. He mixed it up a lot, which I think all of us as fans were kind of expecting because in that first match, it's kind of like taking stock of your best lineup. How are they doing? How are they gelling? Because you don't want to not play them all together because then they lose that mojo. And with a big tournament coming up like the She Believes Cup, you want to be sure you're ready for that tournament. So it made a ton of sense they did that for the first game. But then for the second game, with how many youngsters and how many new up-and-coming players he took, I'm sure he wanted to see as many of them play as possible. And also take stock of who he might want to take to the Olympics with him. Like I've said on previous videos, I think that he's still trying to sort out which of the 6 defenders he's going to take outside of Kelly O'Hara, Crystal Dunn, Abby Dahlkemper, and Becky Sauerbrunn. I contend that he's probably going to take Allie Krieger and one other defender. At least that's what I was saying a month ago. I have a stronger feeling based on these last 2 games that Emily Sonnet is making a case for herself, a really strong one too. But keeping it going overall, let's start at the goalkeeping position. Here are some of my thoughts. Not surprised that Alyssa Nair didn't start this particular game. She really didn't need to. In that first match, she touched the ball 3 times, 2 of which were on goal kicks, and she only had to make 1 punching save, and it was a pretty weak effort from Colombia at that point. Vlatko already knows what Alyssa Nair can do. She's proven, tried and true for the last year or 2. I don't see a reason why he should have wasted another opportunity for another player just to maybe even hurt Alyssa Nair. So I'm not surprised he didn't start in this game. Jane Campbell got the start, and I'm super pumped for her because she has been trying to get into this team, I think, for a while. I believe she was in the U.S. Women's National Team squad a few years back, but she really hasn't been in it since. I was surprised that she got the start, and I was surprised that she was Alyssa Nair's backup in the first match. But regardless, I'm super pumped for her. Like I said, I love for all these players to succeed and do well. I'm not sure if Jane Campbell getting the start and also backing up Alyssa Nair in the game previously is an indicator that she has just been performing better than the other 2 keepers. That's Aubrey Bledsoe and Ashlyn Harris in camp. It could just be that Jane Campbell is performing lights out. She's playing so well that Vlatko can't ignore her, so he's giving her a little bit more time to play. That's all speculation. That's neither here nor there, but that's just kind of an interesting thought that I had. When it comes to the back line for this particular game, not surprised that he completely changed it because, like I said, I think it's pretty clear who the best 4 defenders are in the group. And like I said earlier, that was Kelly O'Hara, Sauerbrunn, Dahlkemper, and Dunn. But there's still other things that he's got to sort out. I hypothesized in previous videos that he took the 10 defenders that he did to this particular to this particular camp is because he's still trying to sort out who else he's going to take to the Olympics, which makes a ton of sense because see as much of the playing field as you can and sort it out from there. I was really pumped to see Ali Krieger get the start, especially since she wasn't even in the subs for the last match. The fact that she wasn't in the subs for the last match really surprised me because, like I said, I would say she's one of the top 5 defenders in the U.S. right now. But for this particular match, I'm super pumped she got the start, and she also played really well to boot. Um, I'm really happy that Emily Sonnet got the start at left back. I've said in previous videos that I'm not really very high on Emily Sonnet, and to her credit, she has proven me wrong in both games for this particular friendly. So her stock in my eyes has definitely risen. She's played really well both games. So good on her for getting the start for this one. I was really surprised to see Alana Cook in the central defending position. From what I know about Alana Cook, which isn't a ton, mind you, I don't believe her natural position is a central defender. I believe she is an outside back by trade. So I'm thinking that this was Vlatko's way of maybe trying something and maybe just getting an opportunity to see as many defenders as he can. So I think that's the rationale for that. What was really interesting was that Tierna Davidson and Alana Cook seem to emulate the playing styles of what Becky Sarbrun and Abby Dahlkemper do, in that Tierna Davidson is like the stopper where she'll go a little bit higher up toward the midfield line and make stops, much like Tierna Davidson did. And then Alana Cook would be used to defend when she needed to and send long balls forward, which is exactly what Alana Cook did, much like Abby Dahlkemper did in the first game. Um, I think the reason why he put Alana Cook there was because maybe it just gave the best balance for what he wanted to see, but also provided a good back line for the U.S. So, who knows with that one. Last but not least, Tierna Davidson. I'm not surprised that she started. I think she's a very good and a very versatile player. She made the squad for the World Cup in 2019. I think Jill Ellis might have rated her pretty highly. I think that she's on the radar for the future. I don't know if that'll change or not. Like I said, it all depends on if she plays well. So that'll do it for my thoughts on the defensive line. Let's go to the midfield. No surprises here. It's pretty much been a constant rotation between Julie Ertz, who almost plays every single minute for every single game, Lindsay Horan, Rose Lavelle, and Sam Mewis. Those four, to me, could easily be top 5 midfielders in the entire world. And it's been pretty much a playing quartet between the four of them. And I guess it's kind of nice that they have Christy Mewis because then it gives them that nice little reprieve if they need it with a 5th really solid midfielder. I don't think Christy Mewis is anywhere really near the talent and the skill that the other 4 have, but still, she is definitely a very solid option to go with in midfield. Like I said, it seems as though Julie is pretty much guaranteed to play every game, all game long. She's just an absolute tank, and she's just a fantastic player. I think she's widely regarded as like top 10 in the world, which I think is definitely warranted. Same thing with Sam Mewis. I think Sam Mewis is definitely in my mind top 10 players, like not just like midfielders, players in the entire world. And I think she's established herself as the first name on the team sheet, which makes a ton of sense given the way she's been playing the last 2 years. You get a lot of flexibility between Lavelle and Horan. They both give you really good positives that you can use in any situation, pretty much. Christy probably in this game could have started to give Lindsay and Rose a rest, or even Sam. But I think with Lindsay not playing in the last friendly against the Netherlands, and then also Rose being injured, I think he wanted to give them, that's Horan and Lavelle, more time to play so we could see them and just see how they're doing and picking up. That's just kind of my rationale for that. And I'm going to say this now, and I know this probably won't be a very popular opinion amongst you listening, but in my mind, I don't think Christy Mewis is going to end up on the Olympic roster. I just don't think that if she was like one of the world's best, I would say yes. But the fact of the matter is the other 4 midfielders, that's Lavelle, Horan, Mewis, Sam Mewis, that is, and Julie Ertz, I don't think with that crowded of a midfield and you only get pretty much 5 midfielders to take to the Olympics with you, that she'll make it into that 5th spot. I think that 5th spot is going to be saved for Katerina Macario because Macario can play not only the midfield, but she can play up top in the striking position. She can be really versatile in both, so that's kind of my take on that. However, I think Christy Mewis is starting to solidify herself as the fact that she should be a regular in these camps. So pretty much every other tournament besides the Olympics, I would take Christy Mewis with the squad, just not for the Olympics because you only get so much room. And I think there's better options on the field. Not to say that Christy Mewis is a bad player. I want to be clear on that. That is not what I'm saying. I think Christy Mewis is a very solid and a very good player. I just don't think she is quote unquote a world class player that's better than what the US has right now. So that's just kind of my thoughts on the midfield. Going up to the forward line, I wasn't surprised that Katarina got her first international start. I fully expected that. I just didn't expect her to get it at the striking position. That really shocked me. It worked out well because I alluded to this a little bit earlier. She played more of like a false nine position, which is more of a, for those of you who don't know what a false nine position is, it's where your striker is normally playing like up top in front of goal. But in a false nine, you take that striker, you kind of push them back just a little bit, kind of below your left and your right winger. And they more so feed the wingers and facilitate play up the pitch, which for the US, I think it makes a ton of sense for what they have. And Macario played into that really well. Obviously, she scored. She dribbled through traffic when she needed to. She did really great play. And like I said, that's almost consistent with the way that Vlatko, I believe, has used Alex Morgan in the past. I think Vlatko just brings a slightly different style than Jill Ellis does, while hanging on to some of the things that Jill Ellis did, because some of the things Jill Ellis did were brilliant. But that's just kind of an interesting, different tactical style that I saw throughout the game. I wasn't surprised to see Megan Rapinoe get more minutes. I think she absolutely needed them to get back into the swing of things. The one thing that I will say is I wish she would have gotten more minutes because she only played 90 out of the 180 possible. Maybe Vlatko's just trying to ease her back into it. That very well could be. He kind of did the same thing with Alex Morgan for the Netherlands friendly. Williams got the start on the right wing, which wasn't a huge deal. I would have rather seen Sophia Smith or Mal Pugh get the start there, but as I learned throughout the game, I believe they both picked up injuries early on in camp, so there's that. I feel really bad for Sophia Smith and Mallory Pugh especially because it seems as though Mallory Pugh is like always injured. I mean, I think she's one of the most talented players in the world. Maybe in the world. I think she can be one of the most talented players in the world eventually, but she just keeps getting hurt, and it's lessening the amount of opportunities that she gets to show off what she can do. So there is that. Let's get into the overall team performance. So overall, obviously, they played great. When you score 6 goals, you're not having a bad day. If I'm not mistaken, they held Colombia to no shots on goal again. That makes it 270 plus minutes in a row where they haven't allowed a shot on goal. One of the things I noticed was they were a lot more patient in their build-up play. They weren't as hasty trying to get the ball up the pitch really, really quickly. What they would do is, instead of just trying to quickly get the ball into the midfield and feed Ertz, Horan, and Mewis, what they would do is they would sort of give it back to the fullbacks, they would give it back to the central defenders, and sometimes they'd even pass the ball back to Jade Campbell just to kind of reset the play a little bit and try to find an opening. I thought that was really wise because in the first game, it seemed as though they lost the ball in the midfield pretty often, which is really uncharacteristic for them. And I think it can be attributed to them maybe trying to just go too fast in their build-up. So something really interesting to see. Vlatko even made a comment about it in the second half, saying something like, patience, good, or something along those lines. If you watch the replay back, go to like the 70-something minute, he says something about that. I just can't remember what exactly it was. So with them playing out of the back and actually using the center defenders and the fullbacks more to pass and facilitate play, I think it made it a lot less risky. Like I said, they lost the ball a lot fewer times, and I think it made them a little bit more organized and composed in attack. So that was pretty good to see. It made a ton of sense because, like I said, in the first match, they would lose possession a lot. It seemed as though that the fullbacks also weren't making as many cuts into it, like inside cuts toward the penalty area. What they would do in the first game is I would see Kelly O'Hara and Crystal Dunn a lot of times where they would bypass the wingers, that's Rapinoe and Williams, and they'd cut inside to receive the pass, and then they would either shoot or they would cross the ball. This game around, it seemed as though when they did make those cuts, they made them less often, and they made them more toward the outside. I think the idea being that the midfielder, the wingers, would feed those outside backs, and the backs would cross it, thus giving them time to get back and defend. So work smarter seemed to be the mentality. The U.S. is always going to work hard on and have a high work rate. That's just kind of a given, but I think they applied more smart tactics for this particular game. kind of a negative critique for this game. I think their lofted and long balls are pretty poor for this particular game. I feel bad for saying this, but they were really bad from a standpoint of Alana Cook and Tierna Davidson. There were so many occasions where either Cook or Davidson would maybe try to send long balls forward to the forward line, but either the passes were just way too short, they were way too long, they were to Colombian opposition. It just wasn't quite working. I think they might have just had a bad day at the office, as it were, which happens, it happens to a lot of great players. But um, even some of the passes to the rest of the back line were a little inaccurate. There was one particular example where Tanner Davidson had the ball. She was doing a long ball to Ali Krieger, and it was just way too low, way too short, and it went right to a Colombian winger. And that's just one of the examples that came to mind when talking about this particular bit. But then again, I will say in the previous match, I think we got a little spoiled because Abby Dahlkemper was nearly perfect in passing. She was throwing straight dimes to the forward line and everybody else. So that's also something to kind of keep in mind as I do that critique. But maybe it was a good test to see if Tierna Davidson and Alana Cook could handle the style that Vlatko uses for Becky Sauerbrunn and Abby Dahlkemper. But really interesting experiment, and I'm glad he tried it. On the flip side of that coin, though, in terms of ground passing and crossing, I thought it was exceptional. Again, I mean, it seems as though that the U.S. does a really good job of passing the ball, whether short or long, on the ground, and their crossing is second to none. I mean, I think that they probably cross more to the center of the pitch, right in front of goal, more than any other team in the world, and they do a really good job at it. Good examples of that for this match. Ali Krieger was absolutely mint doing it. I mean, there are so many occasions where she'd fly up the wing and get the cross to the center, which paid off because Katarina Macario got her first goal off of that. And I believe that Krieger got a second assist using a cross too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but nonetheless, Krieger was putting the ball into really dangerous areas, and so was Emily Sonnet. So there's that. Most of the assists, I would say, actually came from crosses too. You look at Krieger, you look at Crystal Dunn from a cross on a corner kick, and then you look at Mewis and Lloyd. All of them were pretty much crosses to the center of the box. So the U.S. has gotten that skill down very, very well, at least for these two games. And speaking of just assists in general, the finishing for that particular match was a lot better. I don't think it was perfect. There were still shots, especially early on in the game, from Rapinoe, from Lavelle, where they'd get into dangerous areas, but they would just shoot it and it would fly wide, it would fly high. That happens. I still think it was better this game. The reason being is because Lynn Williams, that is, Midge Burris, Katarina Macario, Lindsey Horan, when they all got their opportunities, they all finished really strong. They made sure that ball went into the back of the net, and you'll see it in the results. They scored 2 more goals today than, or not today, in the second friendly than they did in the first. So that's just a good example of that. I think there's still work to do with their finishing, but this was a really good couple of matches for them leading up to the She Believes Cup to kind of get back into that groove. Let's move on. So that'll do it for like the team performance. What about the individual performances for this particular match? I pretty much analyzed everybody in my notes, it looks like. But starting off with Jane Campbell, we'll kind of go back to front here. With Jane Campbell, not really much to do. She definitely touched the ball a lot more this game than Alyssa Nair did. The reason being is because I think, like I said earlier, they were facilitating play from the backline a lot more this particular game, and that's why I think that when the backline would face pressure, they would just give it back to Jane Campbell, which makes a ton of sense. Having said that, Jane Campbell, I think, distributed the ball adequately enough to keep the play getting started again, so she didn't play bad by any means. I just don't think she had the opportunity to really shine as much as you'd want as a player. But like I said, she didn't play bad by any means. Starting off with Ali Krieger, wow. Seeing Ali Krieger was just fantastic. She defended really well. She played in a ton of crosses, got an assist today. I think she played a fantastic game, having said all of that. If you're looking for a comparison, I think she had a better game for the second friendly than what Kelly O'Hara had for the first game. Not saying that Krieger's better than O'Hara, but I think Krieger, like I said, I think this game furthers my point that Krieger's still like a top 5 defender in the squad and that she should be going to the Olympics. And today just proves just that. It's moving over to Alana Cook. So earlier I criticized Alana Cook's long ball passing, which I still stand by. I will say, though, she defended very well when the situation called upon it. Whenever she was one-on-one with a Colombian forward, she handled it pretty well. A lot of no-nonsense defending. I think she handled every situation pretty well. And to her credit, speaking of the long balls, like I said earlier, I don't think the central defending position is her natural spot. I think she's more of an outside back from what I know about her. But one other interesting thing that I noticed from Alana Cook was she got on the end of a lot of good corners and crosses. There were two or three occasions where I remember the U.S. would take a corner, she'd get her head to it. It would be maybe a little high, a little wide, but she was getting into some dangerous areas and making the most of it. So good on her for that. She was really threatening. Uh, Tierna Davidson, moving on a little bit further, she kind of played. She played okay. I don't think she had a great day. I would say that this was probably her bad day at the office. She didn't defend particularly well. She had a lot of wayward passes. I will say though, she did close down a Colombian forward in the 83rd minute with a lot of poise and a lot of aggressiveness, and it ultimately saved them from getting a shot on goal to keep the streak alive. So full credit to her for that. But other than that, not really too much doing for her that day, which happens sometimes. You know, some players just have bad days at the office. Moving on to the last defender, Emily Sonnet played really well again. She was fantastic on the ball. In particular, she was fantastic off the ball. She would do this thing where the Colombian forward line would get the ball. They'd kind of be moving slowly up and build up, and she would lull them to sleep. Then she would pounce like a tiger and then steal the ball and then start building up play for the U.S. again. She did that a couple of times, and I thought that was fantastic to see. Um, and in addition to that, I would say she crossed pretty well in this game too. She would get forward on the left wing and get in some balls into some dangerous areas. Moving on up to Ertz, business as usual. She didn't stand out in this particular game, but she played well as she always does, winning balls in the midfield, defending out of her mind. It was great to see. One highlight I remember was she got this long ball from Ali Krieger off of a free kick. She got her head to it. It was just a little wide, but to her credit, it was in a really tough spot. So, moving on to Rose Lavelle, she did a great job of facilitating play to dangerous areas. Her and Katerina Macario had some good link-up play on multiple occasions, which created some great chances. I think she could have shot just a little bit better, but hey, like I said, she's been injured for a while, so that'll come back with healing and time as well. Moving on to Sam Mewis. Sam Mewis at this point is, one of the world's best still. She dominated again in this game. She was creating chances. She was winning ball in the midfield. There were times where she would just be moving, and it was as if she was floating like up and down the pitch. She would win the ball in her defensive third. She would outrun every Colombian player in her path and create a chance. It was awesome to see, and she definitely showed her skill in this particular game. Moving on to the forward line then, so we've got Lynn Williams. Lynn Williams, I think, played better in this game. There was one chance, this is me being a little nitpicky here, but there was one chance she had one-on-one with the goalkeeper where she just had to chip it over her and she would have scored, and she chipped it right into the keeper and failed to convert the chance. When that's just the chance that you got to finish. But like I said, that's a bit of a nitpick from my end because later on in the game, she made it up. She had a great cross to Sam Mewis, who hit it off the post. And she also put away a fantastic header from a tough spot from Sam Mewis, so there's that too. So like I said, Lynn Williams played better this game. But you can always do better as well. So there is that. Megan Rapinoe, she played well again. She did exactly what she does as a winger should. She crossed the ball into dangerous areas, scored when she needed to, put away her chances as they came, and she showed off her normal high composure level with that penalty and with the goal that she had. So, moving on to the last starter, Katerina Macario, I think she excelled in her very first international start. Her playing in that number 9 role, I think, was very suiting for her. It's very much akin to what she did at Stanford. She would get that ball a little bit deeper into the midfield, facilitate play to the wings, also dribble through traffic, and take on her own shots when she needed to. There was one shot she had in particular that was a good bender to the lower half of the corner, but the Colombian goalkeeper had a really great save to her credit and kept the ball out. I'm really upset that I can't remember the Colombian goalkeeper's name. I should know that because she deserves a shout out because she played phenomenally in both friendlies. Other notes, good on the ball again. She did a good job maneuvering through traffic, and she also showed a little bit more calmness and poiseness throughout the game. There was one instance in particular where she was all alone near the penalty area. She had nowhere to go. She didn't have an angle to shoot. She dribbled to the left wing and just said, "Well, if nobody's gonna be here, I'm just gonna kick it off a defender and earn a corner." And that's exactly what she did. So really cool to see her be composed in those tough spots. So that does it for the individual performances for all the stars. What about the subs? So we'll start off here with Crystal Dunn. I was super pumped to see her play in the forward line. Like I said, me as a USWNT national team fan, I've never seen her play the forward line in particular, and it was cool to see her in that attacking role. I thought she did a fantastic job. She had really good link up play with Lindsey Horan moving up the pitch. They had some really good combo passes, and she also took just about every set piece after Megan Rapinoe left the pitch. So she got even an assist to Lindsay, so that was really cool too. It was just fantastic to see her play up top because she can play anywhere, and I just think that she continues to prove that how big of an asset she can be to any team, including this one. So there's that. Moving on to Carly Lloyd. So with this particular match, Carly Lloyd now has 3 assists in 2 matches. I feel bad because she's gotten on the end of many crosses and she's had a lot of chances to finish, but she hasn't quite been able to put goals away. But nonetheless, she gets involved no matter what and is able to do what she's got to do. She had a great assist to Purse for this particular game. Um, she struggled a little bit this particular game. The one chance that she ended up finishing was toward the end of the game, but she was called offside, so that was a bit of a bummer. But nonetheless, she I think she played well overall. To her credit, she had been getting mugged like both games. She got mugged again in this game too. The Colombian defense would just throw her, shove her, you know. So when you've got that much physical contact on your back, it's hard to kind of cope with that. So I think Lloyd played great. Moving on to Lindsey Horan, she had a great goal off of the volley. She was aggressive, powerful. She was great in the passing game. She just did what she does best, and we absolutely love to see it. She had a great lobbed ball on the set piece. I can't remember who it went to. It might have went to Carly Lloyd, but she was just kind of showing off a bit of skill there as well. Moving on to Emily Fox, I think Emily Fox did a great job on the left, getting up the pitch and also creating more chances and more passes. She wasn't directly involved a ton of times in play because she only played 12 minutes, but the plays she was involved in, it was very efficient, it was very direct, and it was great to see. Christy Munoz, I think she actually played better this game than she did last game. She navigated the midfield really, really well. She created a couple chances in addition to that. She didn't look as reckless this game, but I would say that the whole entire team didn't really look as reckless this game. They were a lot more composed, not as much heavy touches, not as much really, really hard long balls. So there's that. She created a really good chance to Carly, who I believe ran right into the goalkeeper on that particular chance, and she took it like a champ, but it looked like it hurt a lot. So last but not least, going on to Midge Purse, she looked way more natural playing in the front line. Like I said earlier, she scored a goal, which is fantastic to see, but in the last game, Vlatko had her as I believe, a left back, or no, she was a right back. And I think that Vlatko is just kind of trying something with her, much akin to like Crystal Dunn playing in the back line, but I think she's much more of a natural forward than she is a defender. And I think she kind of showed it in that game. She looked a lot more comfortable. She had this one move where she beat a defender one-on-one and managed to get across. And so I think that was just more of a testament to her comfortability in that particular spot. Whew. All right, guys. I'm just going to take a breath real quick. That is all of my recaps of the team performance and the individual performances for this particular match. But to close out the segment, or the main topic, I'm sorry, what does this really all mean going forward? Well, I'll say this. So Emily Sana played really well again. I think that she's gotten a fire started within her to really make an effort and as strongly as she can make this Olympics roster. If she keeps it up, I think she's going to prove me wrong, and she's going to play and play well in the Olympics going forward, which of course I hope she does. And I think that Ali Krieger's really proved that she can be invaluable for a team with her versatility and her ability to be a really solid outside back. And I think that as we play more games and as they play the She Believes Cup, I think she's going to continue to prove that going forward, and she'll make the Olympic roster. In this particular game, I don't think Lynn Williams really helped or hurt her case in this particular match. She didn't really stand out to me in particular, but there's that. I'm still pretty firm in the fact that Katerina Macario is going to make the Olympic roster. I think she's too strong of a player and she's too versatile of a player to leave off of this roster. I have very high hopes and I rate her very highly that she'll have an excellent career and start it today. She'll play very well as time goes on. I'm having further doubts as to whether or not Mallory Pugh will make the Olympic roster. She didn't get a chance to play in either friendly because of her injury, And if she keeps getting injured and isn't able to get on the pitch at all before the Olympics, there's no way that she's going to make the roster. I just don't see it happening. Because Vlatko will have seen all these great world class players play, some of the world's best, and if Mallory Pugh hasn't played at all, like not even leading up to the friendly, then that kind of does it for that. But I think Alana Cook helped her stock in the Olympics a little bit today. I didn't see a ton from her or Tierna Davidson that would suggest that they should absolutely positively be in the Olympic roster. There is still a ton of time between now and then, but just based off of what I've been seeing the last two friendlies, not much has changed for those two. But like I said, guys, those are just kind of my thoughts about what the Olympic roster will look like going forward because of these two friendlies. Like I said, there's still going to be a ton of time between today and when the Olympics kicks off later on in July in Tokyo. So time is going to tell at the end of the day. Whoever's going to be playing at the top of their game is going to play in the Olympics. So, guys, I want to know what you think about the friendlies. Feel free to jump down in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, so let's keep it going.